A governor as closely associated with South Carolina as crescent moons, indigo blue, and those resilient palmetto logs. The South Carolina sand that lapped in his shoes as a native South Carolinian fertilized his soul for a lifetime of service to the great state of South Carolina. Please join me in expressing our deepest appreciation and pride for our governor, Governor Henry McMaster. You my man, brother.
Thank you. Thank you. Keller, thank you. We ought to let Keller talk to every football team before they go out on the field, I swear. That's terrific. I'm happy to be here. I think everybody's most said everything I would say, but so I'd say like Mark Antony once said to Cleopatra, I really didn't come here tonight to talk. But I'm here to celebrate what's happening. This is a grand combination. We had meetings in the next building earlier today, all day long, with business leaders, government leaders, a lot of people. And everybody was saying the same thing. We are right on the edge of a great, great time for this state. It's almost like the current environment was exactly made for us. The need to be able to move nimbly, with heavy talent, with determination, with understanding, with loyalty to our state and country, but with a determination. If you get knocked down, you get back up. You remember the little boy asked Muhammad Ali one time, said, Coach, he said, champ, didn't you get knocked down one time by George Foreman? He said, boy, I ain't never been down. I'm either up or getting up. Well, we've been up and down over the years, as mentioned in reference to our history. But I promise you, as many of you know that have read it, there's not another state that has the history that we have. Remember, all the colonies were on the East Coast. Those new states out there, they just Johnny-come-latelys to all this. We had everything ironed out with all the wars and everything before they got here. We weren't even states yet. We were there right at the beginning and at the time of the Revolutionary War, and thereafter, this South Carolina this colony was the richest place in the entire, of all the colonies, among all the states, for years and for centuries. It's a great history. There are ups and downs. There are all sorts of factors involved, but it is almost a miracle that the great prosperity and leadership that came from this state. Our state is a state of commerce, conservation, and consequence. And in this Revolutionary War celebration that we're getting ready to have, that would be more and more clear. I remember reading when Lord Cornwallis was leaving the state, he said, the war is over. We can't beat these people. He also said, he referred to Francis Marion, said, we can find that Sumter gamecock, but we can't find that damn fox. We recently purchased Snow Island, where they said that his camp was. And the British couldn't find that camp, and we can't either, but we own it now. So we're liable to be able to find it. I've said, and you may remember in one of my last inaugural address, what will South Carolina look like in 100 years? What will it look like in 100 years? Well, I can promise you, from the things that are developing, the innovation, the technological innovation, the camaraderie, the fact that the chairman of BMW refers to this as a handshake state. I heard him say it twice, 5 years apart. He said, I'd rather have your hand in mine in your word than a signed contract. And you know, I read the other day, is anybody from the Self family here tonight? I saw Jay Self the other day. I read, that started way back. But the first time I've seen it recorded was when James Self was in Greenwood. He grew up poor. His daddy was a country doctor, but he died early. He had, I think, there were 3 children. He had to go to work, little jobs here and there. Ended up working, I think, in a bank. ended up working in a mill that wasn't doing well, ended up taking over the mill. It wasn't successful, but he took it over. But he knew he could make it successful because he knew he had the main ingredients necessary, namely the people. And that's why you'll note that Self family and that organization is famous for the way it treated its people. Go look at the mill houses and see what you think. You'd like to have one. But he knew he could make it, but he needed to have new looms for the mill. And there was a company in Massachusetts that made the looms for the mill, but he didn't have any money. So he made a trip, made his case. He said, I know I can make it work, but I need to buy them on credit. The man was impressed and said, we'll do it. We'll send the looms on credit. So we went home to Greenwood, waiting for the looms. Well, they didn't come. We went back up, and the other brother had shown up by that time, who was the head of the company. Said, sorry, Mr. Self, we cannot sell looms or anything else on credit. Mr. Self said, and I think I have the quote right, he said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. Where I come from, when a man gives his word, he keeps it. Well, it wasn't too long before the looms came, and as you know, they ended up owning, building mills all over the place, and according to the history books, it was the largest privately owned mill empire in the whole world. And they treated their people well, because the people are the key. And in South Carolina, from where we came from, all those different countries, different conditions, been in every war. And of course, the Indians were here 10,000 years before we were. Their names are on half the things in the state. This state has a greater history, a greater strength, a greater determination, a vivid, documented determination, unlike any other place. And we are at a point now where we've got great educational institutions. We know where we want to go, and we know how to get there. And all we have to do is keep doing it. So I would say that as I asked, what will South Carolina look like in the next 100 years? We're going to be prosperous, we're going to be happy, we're going to be healthy, we're going to have a beautiful conservation, all these wonderful natural heritage and cultural heritage. We will have it all indefinitely. And this next 100 years, I believe this next century is going to be the South Carolina century. All we have to do is stick to what we know is the right thing to do. Say your prayers, love your family, treat your friends and enemies with a little bit of kindness, and we'll get there. So I'm delighted. I think this is a red letter day. This is a red letter moment for this state, for these two organizations to join up so well with such talent is going to spell success over and over and over for our state. So be proud of South Carolina, and don't ever let the children forget. Don't let the children forget there's not a better place in this whole world to live, work, and raise a family than where we are right now. Congratulations.
Rewarding careers, empowering prosperity across all 46 South Carolina counties. See, I told you it'd be a history lesson tonight. I just want to make sure y'all know there are 46 counties. On June the 28th, 1776, Sergeant William Jasper was fighting furiously to repel the British man-of-wars that were bombarding Fort Sullivan and its makeshift palmetto logs. When he saw his home state flag ripped from its standard and dashed into the sand, he exclaimed to his superior, Colonel Moultrie, "Colonel, do not let us fight without our flag." To which his superior exclaimed, "How can you help it?" To which Jasper immediately leapt into action, scaled down the fallen palmetto logs, retrieved the flag, and reposted it on a sponge staff, that rod used to put ammo in a cannon, rallying his troops to victory. It may not be known to all of you, but after the battle, the governor of South Carolina, who I talked about previously, presented Sergeant Jasper, an enlisted man, his own sword and offered him a commission, which Jasper, as a true soldier, humbly declined. Replicating this true servant leader, an approachable man of action who can rally his own troops, is reverent to his Lord and Savior and humble well beyond his position of leadership in South Carolina. We're all proud to welcome to the stage the President of the South Carolina Senate, President Thomas Alexander.
Wow, what a night. Keller, thank you for your leadership and the efforts that you're making. And to see this great crowd here tonight as we celebrate a great occasion and as we celebrate truly South Carolina and its 250 years, I really feel like I just need to yield my time and let you keep on with the 250th anniversary. We're going to look forward to your book coming out soon. And the governor, I thought he was going to make all of his comments without talking about the people of South Carolina. But as true to his message, whether it's those 250 years ago, Keller, you were talking about, all the way to today, it is truly the people of South Carolina that makes this the greatest state of the United States of America. The challenges and the opportunities is our people. And some of the best of those people are right here tonight. The leaders of South Carolina's business, manufacturers, and commerce. Doesn't that have a wonderful ring to it? And then when you keep the tradition of Business Speaks as a part of this new organization, because it is important, very important, for business to speak. Please, please, take the time to speak with your local legislators and those in local government. There's that void there that you can and need to fill. And that's the reason that I'm here tonight to help launch this new organization. I think it is fitting for us tonight, Together for Business Speaks, as we also celebrate the launch of South Carolina Manufacturers and Commerce. This new organization now gives South Carolina businesses the opportunity, and I emphasize the opportunity, to speak with a more unified voice, and just as important, a louder one. It's vital. As I said earlier, it is indeed vital that we hear what business has to say. Because if business speaks, we listen, and then the improvements can be made. You are out there where the rubber meets the road. That is so critical for us. South Carolina Manufacturers and Commerce is also, if I can say, very, very fortunate to have Sarah Hazard at the helm. She has spent years, more than she probably cares to count, advocating effectively and passionately for the interest of business. And I will say, as was said earlier, so highly regarded and respected. And I have no doubt that she will continue to do this in this new role. But I do want to talk about, just for a second, about the Senate, and we'll hear from others. But the Senate will take up many issues this year. But I want to start talking about the philosophy of our legislative action. Now, our governor has always, and I kid him about the 3 C's that he's had. I've tried to come up with the 3 A's, but I've decided if you can't beat him, join him. So I've come up with my own 3 C's. I can't remember his collaboration, communication, and cooperation, I think, or maybe his three. I've got the three C's. The first is competitiveness. If South Carolina is going to remain the economic powerhouse that we have come to expect, we must ensure that our education system, our infrastructure, and our business climate do not just keep pace with our neighbors, but ladies and gentlemen, it must surpass our neighbors, and we're committed to doing that for the people of South Carolina. My second C is cost. You know, having been in small business for over 40 years, I understand cost. And I think as the legislature and the Senate and our leadership and Leader Massey and opportunities with the others in the Senate and working with my great friend Murrell Smith, a great Speaker of the House of Representatives, and as we coordinate and work with our governor, cost. We understand cost. And we need to make sure that businesses in South Carolina are not burdened with unnecessary cost. What does that mean? It means that we continue our work on regulatory reform, tort reform, and maintaining a fair and competitive tax environment. Folks, that's how you control cost. And then finally, the other C is about capacity. You know, we have to meet the demands of growth, whether we like the growth that's coming or not. Senator from Charleston, we've got to meet the demands of growth by addressing both our energy needs and our workforce needs to ensure that businesses have the resources to operate now and in the future, and do it successfully and profitably so that you can continue to grow and expand in South Carolina. So those are the three C's from a 30,000 level, and the philosophy that I look forward to work with my colleagues in the Senate and in the House as we lead this legislative session. And I predict, Keller, that if we will focus on those three C's, then South Carolina will get those A's that I'm looking for because of the success of us working together for the future and the benefit of the people of this great state and what you're doing day in and day out. May God continue to bless you in the work and the efforts that you do, and it is an honor to be here with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the commander of the South Carolina militia, General Thomas Sumter had the scars of many battles, such as Hanging Rock, Fishing Creek, Fish Dam Ford, Blackstock Plantation. He delivered the first defeat to the vicious Lieutenant Colonel Tarleton and his British Dragoons. And in doing so, Tarleton labeled him the Carolina Gamecock for his fierce fighting and creative tactics. With great pride, we welcome our own modern-day Carolina Gamecock, who tactically, faithfully, and fiercely fights just as hard for South Carolina. And he wears his own scars as badges of honor in service to South Carolina. Our Speaker of the House, Speaker Murrell Smith. That one was just...
Well, it is an honor to be with you tonight, but it's more of an honor to be introduced as the commander of tonight. Mr. President, I hope you understand that. You're a general. I was also a general, but I'm a commander. So I really appreciate that introduction, the history lesson, and especially likening me to Thomas Sumter, the fighting Gamecock. And fighting Gamecock, you get that, Mr. President. He's my Tiger fan, and I'm a Gamecock fan. And so, yeah, I'm helping you out on that. But let me tell you, it is an honor to be with you all tonight at this first event for the South Carolina Manufacturers and Commerce Committee here, or Association. I am honored to be a part of this tonight. And I tell you one thing I appreciate, I'm going to reiterate some of what President Alexander said. I appreciate this organization coming together and speaking with one voice, because that is what we need in South Carolina, is we need a united front. And we need people who join together and work together. And when we work together, we become a better state and a better place to live, work, and raise a family. And I also want to concur with what President Alexander said. Y'all could not have picked a better person to lead this new organization with Sarah Hazard. She is someone... She is someone with integrity and, most importantly, with trust, because those of us who serve in the General Assembly trust her and trust what she says, and that is not given to her. It's not something that she found on the side of a road, or as Governor McMaster always says, bought on Amazon. It is from years of hard work and getting to know people and being truthful and working together for the betterment of South Carolina. She's earned that reputation, and she ought to be very proud of that, and I look forward to working with her. I will say this. I think we often don't talk about what's right in South Carolina. And this is an election season, and you have a lot of people running for office, and you have a crowded primary to replace Governor McMaster, who by every measure has been an excellent governor for South Carolina. And so you're going to hear about what's wrong. You're going to hear about what's wrong a lot from South Carolina, and how Columbia is a infested place and is full of corruption and all these buzzwords to try to play to the fears of people. But I tell you, the one thing that I'm proud of serving in the House and serving with leaders like Senator Campson and President Alexander is we don't play to the people's lowest fears. We play to what is right for South Carolina. And I think it's very, very important that we talk about what's right with South Carolina. We're in a time of unprecedented growth, whether you like it or not, but it's also unprecedented success. And how do we find ourselves there? We find ourselves here because we have decided that we're going to work together with one another, and we're going to try to make South Carolina the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And I will tell you, through years of it's not only those of us who have served in the General Assembly, it's most importantly, it's you who have served in the business community, who have created jobs, who have created product, and who have risen South Carolina to the top of the nation in about every economic statistic that you can find. And so what has happened is we've worked for years on planting the seeds and trying to grow South Carolina and set it up for success. And I'm going to tell you here tonight, I think we are succeeding, and not only are we succeeding, but we are winning. And I want to share with you some of the statistics, some that just came out here this morning, that talks about where we are in South Carolina. To start off 2025, we were the #1 state with the real GDP growth in the first quarter, and the fastest in the entire country. Over this past year, we have added 79,000 jobs, which is a 3.4% increase in our jobs in South Carolina. That is South Carolinians who are getting jobs, and not only getting jobs, getting good jobs. And with that said, we were #1 in the nation for job growth, blowing away every other state. We were at 3.1%. The next closest state was 2%. And South Carolina is one of only 5 states in this nation in which unemployment fell over the last year. Everyone else's unemployment went up. And most importantly, we just announced the numbers from this morning. South Carolina announced more than $9.1 billion in capital investments, representing our third highest year of industry recruitment, and also created 8,100 more jobs. One of the issues that I'm most proud about of this statistic, rural recruitment of both capital investment as well as new jobs accounted for more than 40% of the overall totals, the highest percentage we've had in the state since 2010. So we're not just creating jobs in the metropolitan areas, we're creating jobs all over the state of South Carolina, and you all ought to be proud of that. And And as I mentioned, this all didn't happen by accident. It happened by us working hard over these years to put policies in place for South Carolina to make us prosper. Also, in this last year, Governor McMaster, I want to give him credit for this success because he has been a true partner to the General Assembly. That's what we need in a governor, someone that's going to work together for South Carolina, no matter who they are, what party they may belong, what ideas or ideologies they may have. We need to have someone that works with South Carolinians to make this a better place, and he has done that. And I tell you, as we go through this, President Alexander, you talked about his C's, communication, collaboration, and cooperation. As you know, I always forget those, so it's written down on his notes for me. But what he has done is set a precedent for us, and that is going to be a lasting legacy in this state. And I look forward to continuing to work with him for one more year and watch how the success that we see in South Carolina. I also want to thank my Senate leadership, President Alexander, Majority Leader Massey, Senator Peeler, Chairman Peeler. We have formed a relationship to which President Alexander and I meet every week. We make sure we work with one another, and we're not trying to compete with one another. And that's what winning is about, is making sure that we're working together. So, So we had a successful legislative session last year, and I thank you all for being a part of that. Energy reform is going to be monumental in what we've done in South Carolina. We had liquor liability reform, which helped our hospitality industry tremendously, and we're going to finish the job this year on tort reform with medical malpractice and the other issues. But what I'm excited about is where we're going this year. And you heard President Alexander talk about some of those issues. And again, you're going to see the General Assembly focus on lowering taxes. You hear about affordability. You hear about problems with that. How do you fix affordability? Put more money in people's pockets. And you're going to see that as we're going to continue to try to reduce our highest in the Southeast tax rate. And with income tax, you will see some property tax that the Senate is doing right now, and then also small business personal property tax. You cannot continue to tax equipment that is necessary to run a business in this state, and we're going to deal with that. And lastly, not lastly, but next, as you know, we will be introducing a bill next year on the modernization of our infrastructure and our highways. It's time for South Carolina to join our neighbors in making sure that we have reliable roads and people are not sitting in congestion day after day trying to get to a job. Think about the wasted time that's occurring in that. Every day someone tries to go to work and has to spend time in a car stuck in traffic. So I hope you'll see us work on that this year and a number of things. But I'll tell you right now, it cannot be accomplished without more money. And anyone that tells you that we can fix the roads without having any more money is selling you a bag of goods. I'm telling you, we're going to have to do that, and it's going to have to come from you all telling us in the General Assembly we have to invest in our roads, because that's investing in South Carolina, investing in our future. And I'll tell you, I'll end up with this. It has been an honor of my life to serve in this capacity with the members of the South Carolina House of Representatives. The best thing about this is I see what's good in South Carolina. I see what's right in South Carolina, and we're going to continue to fight for South Carolina. We're going to continue to work together, and I'm so excited about working with this new organization, and we're going to make South Carolina the greatest state to work, live, and raise a family. So thank you for having me tonight. God bless you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Speaker Smith. Thomas Heyward, he was considered a martyr of the Revolution. He lost nearly all of his earthly possessions due to his devotion to South Carolina. One day he was quizzed by his father. Son, undisciplined militia like ours cannot stand against the trained armies of the king. We shall surely be beaten. No doubt, said the young Heyward. What shall we do then? His father said. His answer, raise another army and keep up the struggle. To which his father replied, what? To be beaten again? To which Thomas Heyward responded, certainly, and the same may follow, over and over again. But we shall become reconciled to the evils of war, and acquiring military experience shall ultimately gain victory. Likewise, we have all witnessed the same fortitude, perseverance, sacrifice, and endurance in our next speaker, who I'm proud to welcome to the podium, Majority Leader of the Senate, Majority Leader Shane Massey.
Keller just called me a martyr. I'm familiar with the repetitive losing, however, and so I appreciate the hope. You know, I enjoy, like the rest of us, hearing Keller preach. But I do have to point out that the Bible asked us for 10%, whereas Dominion's asking for 12.7. Yeah. I'm going to talk about some things a little bit different tonight, and some of you have heard me say some of this before, and for those of you who've heard it before, hopefully it'll sink in the second time. You know, we are very fortunate in South Carolina. We are blessed. We do tend to focus on, and the speaker talked about this a minute ago, but we tend to focus a lot on the negatives. We tend to focus on the things that we're upset about. We are a blessed people. There are a lot of really wonderful things that are going on in South Carolina. If it were not so, everybody in this room could be somewhere else. And if it were not so, you would be somewhere else. We are very fortunate here. That does not mean, however, that we don't have challenges. We certainly do. One of the benefits of this job is I get the opportunity to speak with lots of different groups. Sometimes larger crowds like this, sometimes smaller ones. And inevitably, the conversation always comes about, what do you think is the biggest issue? What's the most important thing facing South Carolina? And I will usually flip the question back on the person asking me. And I'll say, I'm going to answer your question, but first I'm interested, what do you think it is? And the answers are all over the board. Sometimes it depends on the room that you're in. But it can range from infrastructure, roads and bridges. It surely is a big issue. I hear about education, K-12 and higher education. I hear about, increasingly recently, you hear about growth and the challenges that comes with that. You hear about tax policy. You hear about protecting life. We hear about all sorts of issues. There's a number of other things. And I agree that all of those and many others, workforce development, something I hear from folks in this room, energy, all of those things are extremely important. But none of those are the most important issue facing South Carolina. The most important issue facing South Carolina is leadership. And I say that not to be critical of anyone else. That's not my goal at all. I'm not criticizing Governor McMaster. I think he's done a fine job. He has been a steady hand at a time when we needed it. He is a persistent cheerleader of this state, reminding us of all the great things that are going on here. We need that. we are better off for his service. I'm not criticizing Henry McMaster. I'm certainly not criticizing the other leaders that you're going to hear from tonight, whether that be Todd Rutherford or Brad Hutto or Davey, Hiott, and certainly not President Alexander and Speaker Smith. They are tremendous leaders who do great work, and I consider them both trusted friends. And so I'm not criticizing them either. If I'm going to criticize anyone, I'll criticize myself. The biggest issue facing South Carolina is leadership. Leadership matters. It is something that we should think about during the election season that's coming up. Who the next leader will be will matter. But it's not just in government service. Whether it's a nonprofit or private sector or government or wherever, leadership matters. And we especially know it when we don't have it. That's one of the reasons why I'm excited about the merger as well. I think bringing manufacturers and business at large together is a great idea. I too am a big fan of Sarah Hazard. I believe in Sarah. I believe in her ideas. I believe in her vision. I believe in her heart. I trust her. She is a wonderful leader. But ladies and gentlemen, Sarah Hazard cannot do what needs to be done all by herself. The people in this room have to do more than come to an annual banquet once a year. We need you to step up. South Carolina needs the people in this room to step up because you are leaders. You are leaders in your organization. You have other leaders who work with you. Cultivate that talent. Help them lead as well. Maybe they'll run for office. Maybe they'll step up and help their community. But South Carolina needs leaders. We have difficult challenges to face. Infrastructure, education, growth, energy, whatever it is. We cannot address those issues without leadership. People who are committed to making hard decisions, even when they're unpopular. And that also requires other people having their backs when that happens. South Carolina needs leadership. We need you. We need you to step up. We need you to help work with us to continue the wonderful progress that we've made, but also to be even better. Ladies and gentlemen, that will not happen if you sit on the couch. It won't. These things and more success require this organization, but you personally to be engaged for the betterment of South Carolina. That's the only way it will happen. Leadership matters. We need you to be engaged. And I'm confident that if you will do that, if you will step up, if you will be leaders, not just with this organization, I know it will, I'm excited about that potential, but not just the organization, but you too, you individually, and help cultivate additional leaders. If you will step up, if you will work with us, and we will work with you, we will make South Carolina the envy, not just of the United States, but of the world. I'm confident in that. We can solve our problem. Whatever our problem is, we can solve it. I'm confident we have the capacity to do that, but it requires leadership. And it can't just be sitting on the couch fussing at the television. All of us have a role to play. I encourage each one in here to assume that role and help us all make South Carolina a much better place. Thank you all very much for what you do. Thank you for helping make South Carolina better.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I'd just like to point out, going off script, that before they started with that tithing stuff, the Lord stretched out his hand and said, "Let there be light." I love you, Senator. General Francis Marion the Swamp Fox is one of the most revered generals in history. His tactics are still referenced today in the handbook, get this, of the 75th Ranger Unit of the U.S. Army. Throughout the swamps of South Carolina, he, with an unpaid ragtag militia, ran the greatest army on the face of the earth at the time from South Carolina. Later, as a South Carolina legislator, General Marion said the following. You've heard about his fighting prowess. Look at how he viewed government. The best government on earth, if not duly known and prized, may be subverted. Ambitious demagogues will rise, and the people, through ignorance and love of change, will follow them. Coming from some of the same swamps where General Marion displayed his prowess and possessing an acute sense of the role of government and knowing it and prizing it and preserving it for the people of South Carolina, we are proud to welcome to the stage the Minority Leader of the South Carolina Senate, Minority Leader Brad Hutto.
So Keller's family and my family grew up down the road from one another, not very far from where the swamp fox ranged. And my family came from an area in Europe that is now, we don't know, but Germany or France, and neither one of those countries I don't think existed at that time. But we came over here for a new life and a new beginning. And we just wanted to farm. And when this whole war thing broke out, we really weren't sure. I mean, were we, Tories, loyalists, patriots? We didn't know. And we started out sort of on one side, but our family history is that two of my ancestors joined Francis Marion and were a part of that militia that hounded the British throughout the swamps of the low country of South Carolina. And I'm proud of my heritage, and I know most of y'all who grew up here are proud of yours. But one thing about South Carolina now is that we are growing, and not everybody's from here anymore. I often say that most of my new neighbors are from Ohio, and y'all sat me at the table with Huntington Bank, who's from Ohio, just to prove that the people from Ohio are moving down here, not only individually, but corporately. Thank y'all for having me at your table. It's not enough to grow, but we've got to grow smartly. We've got to think about how we grow. I walked outside today, there was a chill in the air. It said to me, it's January in Columbia. And I looked over to the block building and I saw massive security and long lines, and then I know for sure, because in Columbia, in January, if it's January, it's abortion. Now, I say that to say that I hope that our leadership will not allow us to be sidetracked on all the election year issues that come up. And I'm not saying that that's not important. But what I'm saying is this. When we're growing as fast as we're growing, there's some really important issues that we've got to address. And I can talk to you about education, and we need a world-class education for all of the students in our public school system and our charter school system and our private school system and our homeschoolers. We need a robust education that will prepare them for the workforce. We need that in higher ed, and we need it at our technical schools. We need quality health care. I grew up in South Carolina when there was a doctor in every small town and a hospital in every county. And that's not true anymore, which means that we've got to make sure that our healthcare system reaches out to those areas where we no longer have the robust healthcare we used to have. We need to make sure that economic development, and we've enjoyed a lot of it, from Boeing to Lockheed to BMW to Volvo, it's got to extend to the rural areas as well. Luckily for us in Orangeburg, we are starting to grow. And that's important. We announced a few weeks ago that we're going to build the chassis for the Scout motors that will be assembled here in Columbia. It's important that we have growth in the rural areas. And while we do that, we've got to protect our environment. We've got to make sure that those things that people are looking for, like our friends from Ohio, when they come down here, they're coming down here for the quality of life that we've always known. But we've got to make sure that we conserve those pristine areas that make our quality of life special. The majority leader, and look, we're not Washington. all of the speakers before me were Republicans. I'm a Democrat. Doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because when we go over in that state capitol, it's about policy. It's about doing the right thing. And so I heard the majority leader say, we need to have you engaged. We need to have you engaged on many, many fronts, but I'm going to give you three that I think you can make a real difference in. Number one, if you don't have a mentorship program in your organization where you're reaching out to high school kids and young kids in college or technical school to mentor them, you need to. That's something every person in this room can do. Whether you're reading to a third grader or having an 11th grader shadow you through the summer, it's something that we can do to enhance our workforce. The next thing is, a lot of the reasons that we have problems in our workforce is related to childcare. And if you don't have a program within your company to incentivize childcare, to either bring daycare on the campus of your organization or to give some sort of credits to people who need daycare, we're leaving a segment of the population behind who could be a very important worker for you. And finally, you can do something about housing. A lot of times, people can't work for you because they don't live close enough to you and they don't have transportation. We have a housing deficit in many areas of South Carolina. I know there's a few companies, one in particular in my home county, that if you go to them, if you've been working there and you go to them and you show them that you're a first-time home buyer and that you've gotten your mortgage, they give you $10,000. They give you $10,000 to put down on your house to lower how much you're going to have to pay over time. So if there's anything I could ask you to do, is you go back to your individual corporations, do something to help our education system in the area of mentoring. Do something to help your workforce with childcare, and do something to help your workforce with housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader Hutto. General William Moultrie in the Battle of Sullivan's Island in 1776 was challenged by one of his young officers as he stared into the Atlantic at the approaching British Navy and then down at the hastily assembled palmetto logs of the fort. Well, Colonel, what do you think of it now? To which Moultrie responded, we should beat them. His officer responded, sir, when those ships come to lay down beside your fort, they will knock it down in half an hour. We will lay behind the ruins and keep them from landing. To which Moultrie responded, for South Carolina, we fight. Possessing the same boldness, confidence, and determination to stand and fight for South Carolina, we're proud to welcome to the stage our House Majority Leader, Davey Hiott.
I'm looking for my speech up here. Thank you. We had Keller Kassam and Governor Henry McMaster on the same stage. I was looking for the interpreter. But one of them's left the building, so I can understand one of you, so we're glad to have you. But thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I've got everything anybody said in front of me is part of what I was going to say. We all get the same notes because we've all done the same thing and we've all made the same accomplishments. And I could stand up here and read statistic after statistic and tell you what's been accomplished, but you've heard that. I think what Leader Massey said was some of the things I was going to say about leadership, and I don't know where he got my speech, but he got it before I did. But I've served in the Statehouse for 22 years, and this is my last year. I'm retiring. Most of you know that by now. But there's one thing, and Sarah, congratulations. You and I have known each other for 22 years, and we go way back, and you've done a great job. But there's one thing I can say that's been consistent for 22 years, and that's this organization shows up at the Statehouse. Sometimes you show up just to speak to us. Now look, there's a lot of legislators in this room, and they'll tell you, some of them have served a while. Every person that's come before me served longer than I have tonight. And there's a lot of legislators across this room that have not served as long as we have. And they'll tell you, hey, you turn around in the Statehouse and somebody's in your ear or somebody's in your face needing something or want to talk to you about something. But a lot of times, Sarah and many of you other folks have shown up and just said, hey, we appreciate what you're doing. And we don't hear that very often. I was blown away the other day. I was checking the mail at my house, and I got this little card in the mail, in an envelope that was addressed to me, and I thought, okay, somebody's needing something, wonder what this is going to be. Went in the house, opened it up. I stand there reading it. My wife went, who is it? And I said, it's a handwritten thank you note. Imagine that in today's world. A handwritten thank you note. I said, I believe I'll keep this one. But that's what you folks have given us over the years. A handwritten thank you note. It may be just a pat on the back and say, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for listening to me. We don't always agree. We don't always get what we want. Minority Leader Hutto doesn't get half of what he wants because he's a Democrat, you know? But we simply say thank you for being there for us. Because you are what runs this state, by the way, in case you didn't know that. You're the engine that drives this state. We cast the votes. Chairman Bannister passes out the money. But you're the folks that drive this state. You're the engine that drives this state, because if you don't do what you do, there's no need for us. Because you are the engine of this state. And I can remember coming to this event many years ago, and they brought the petitions out because they didn't need all this room. But this shows what working together can get you. A full house. And I'm sure there's many others that aren't here tonight for other reasons. But you're the engine that drives this state. And we appreciate it. We don't tell you enough, but we appreciate it. I know I do. It pleases my heart. I travel across this state quite a bit, just like all the rest of us do. And it pleases my heart as I'm driving down the road and I see some business on the sides of the road. I don't care whether it's one car or 1,000 cars in that parking lot. Because they are providing something for this state. They are creating a job for somebody. And you may be paying one person, but that one person is paying a whole lot of people with that money that you're paying them. And you're creating a whole lot of wealth for this state. This state's doing great. And we all can be patted on the back for that. It's not something the legislators done. We've put a lot of good things in place. We've got some great leadership. These two guys sitting right here. We've got some great leadership, me excluded. But you folks, when I see a business that's got a car, one car, or 1,000 cars sitting in that parking lot, I go, thank you. I've never met whoever that is, but I say thank you for creating jobs for our people. I have an opportunity to sit and talk with a lot of folks that are looking at coming to South Carolina. And somewhere early on in that conversation, they'll talk about energy, and they'll talk about employees. Are those two things available in South Carolina? Well, we're fixing the energy problem. We've done a good job, and we're continuing to do that. But when I talk about employees, I say, go talk to other folks around you. Go talk to the neighborhoods and let them talk to you about where they work and how they're treated. That's you, by the way. People are talking about you in the communities because you're their bosses. You're the people that's created that job for them. I once had a guy tell me this, and I'll close with this. I once had a gentleman tell me, he says, after he heard that I was getting out of politics, he said, you know, Davey, he says, they won't remember how you voted. They won't remember what you did for them. They won't remember what title you had, but they'll remember how you treated people. They'll remember how you treated people. And we're treating people, and you're treating people every day. So one of these days, people are going to be asking, well, what kind of work did you do? Well, let me tell you about where I worked. It was the greatest place in the world. I love working with all these people. That's you, because you're creating these jobs. We can't thank you enough. We appreciate that you're allowing us to be here. And we obviously know that we'll see Sarah soon. We see her quite a bit, but we're glad to see her because we know what she's doing. She's representing you. We thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Leader Hiott. Oscar Marion, an American patriot who was recently honored in the South Carolina African American calendar. He was also recognized by the President in 2006 for his devoted and selfless consecration of service to our country as a member of the 2nd Continental Army Regiment of South Carolina. Such an imposing and effective fighter, British redcoats would break ranks prior to fighting to avoid Oscar Marion's flank within the formation. Likewise, our next speaker possesses an enduring legacy of extraordinary impact through courage, unwavering dedication, tenacity, and devotion to South Carolina. We are proud to welcome to the stage the House Minority Leader, if you smell what the rock is cooking, Todd Rutherford.
Whoa! Keller never, ever let you down, ever, 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 even coming back from Shane. Wow. Oscar Marion, never even heard of him, but now I have to go look him up since that comparison. And I hope he just wasn't a scoundrel. But either way, Keller, thank you again. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. But let me begin by doing this. There are a number of people in this room that come here from the Statehouse, and a number of House members and senators. I see them sitting all over. But there's one who has already told you that he's not coming back. And it would, if I could take a point of personal privilege, like they say in the Senate all the time, words that really don't mean anything over there, but over here, because this is not what I should be talking about, and I know that you all want to hear what we're going to do for business, but Davey Hiott has dedicated 20 plus years of his life to this state. And he is, and I've requested that he stay. He has denied that. I've requested he stay as majority leader. He's denied that. But he has given so much of his time to this state. He has a family, and he leaves them and drives 2 hours plus to come down here and stays down here for three days out of the week. And it would mean a great deal to me if you all would please give him a round of applause as he leaves. As has already been said, this is South Carolina, and I don't get up here and talk about corruption in the Republican Party and tell you that they're stealing this and doing away with that, because they're not. I'm not going to get up here and tell you how our governor's just wrong and he can't do this and can't do that, because that's not true. We all collectively try and figure out what we can do for South Carolina. And you all are truly that engine. You all, as Davey said, just keep making it happen time after time. And Sarah, thank you for agreeing to run this joint organization, because wow, what an idea to bring it together to make sure that we are continuing to speak for the people who are in these jobs. Because when somebody comes into my office and looking, where do I go? I can tell you where to go. You can go to those people that have made South Carolina what it is and will continue to make South Carolina grow. As we look at Scout Motors, we look at BMW and Boeing, and we look at all those industries out there that are just chugging on all cylinders because this is South Carolina. We want you all to know, Democrat and Republican, come to us, tell us, what is it you need? Lower energy costs, healthcare, workers, labor. These are things that we're going to try and get together and figure out how to do it better. Because believe it or not, every single one of us is trying to figure out how to beat Georgia, how to beat North Carolina, and not just in football, not just in basketball, but in being better public servants, in making sure that you all can continue to do what you do. And literally, when somebody comes to South Carolina and the governor says, hey, we need to get together, let's talk to this group, we're all going, what can we do? What can we do? Because that's what government should do. You all will hear, and you've already heard the call about getting involved. You've already heard the call from Senator Hutto about child care, and all those things matter. One of the things I just want to leave you with, because everybody's already said everything, you're going to continue to hear from those people that are out there running for office that all of us down here, that this is some swamp, that this is some place where morals are left to the side. And one of the things I need you to do is push back on that and say, you know, when we go to the General Assembly, that's not what we run into. When we go to the General Assembly, we don't see cash laying out on people's desks. We don't see people looking to steal money. We see people that are trying to do what's best for this state. And the answer that they've given us is what we've looked for, or it has always been that we're going to try and do better, because that's what you're going to hear from us. My speaker spoke earlier, talked about the very same things, and he's my speaker. And he and I disagree all the time. He tells me to be quiet and sit down all the time, but I don't listen because, again, this is about doing what's best for the people that are here, doing what's best for the people that are out there. Let me close by saying this. Whatever I can do, I will. Whatever my party can do, we will. We ask you one more thing. We are only one of 4 states in the country that doesn't have some type of organized gambling. Please, please, can we, for the sake of all those that desire to simply go and be entertained or place a bet or do something, because one of the things that you all, I'm sure, are running into as you recruit, as you want to bring talent into this state, well, what else do I do after I get off work? Where do I go? Well, I can tell you. It'll be a place called Santee, about 90 miles from here. And you can go down and you can have a good time and you can entertain yourself and you can place a bet, and it's going to lift up an entire area of this state that has been blighted for years. And we're going to get some tax revenue from it to be able to help you do those things that right now we are reaching into your pocket to get. We've got to reform property taxes. We're going to reform property taxes. We're going to reform income taxes. But as we do that, please, please help us out. Give people that want to go down and gamble, not me, but those that do, a place to go and vote for that, support it. Tell every House member and senator in here that they need to pass that this year. And lastly, thank them for the time that they're spending in a job that right now is probably paying me about $500 a year to be down here. I think it actually cost me money to be a representative, and I've been doing it since 1998. There are those that cannot afford to serve. There are those that are losing money doing it, but they still continue to try. Please thank them for all they're doing and all they give to this state. Appreciate you all listening. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yes, sir.